and welcome to another edition of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. I am your host, JTH, a great, wonderful host, and as Kevin Owens would say, and nobody watching would ever want that. So, with that being said, let's go to our great, wonderful players today. We got another first-round match in this tournament. The winner of this will take on the winner of Grant Gregory versus Jim Green. So, without further ado, let's meet our players. Let's start off with Nico Regoli, the Crimson, or the Cosmic Night Fury. I was about to say Crimson Night Fury. I apologize. So, Nico, obviously you're no stranger to wrestling-related stuff. You were a former wrestling trivia champion. How do you think you're going to take all your wrestling-related knowledge and bring it into a debate conversation?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because, yes, out of all the mediums of trivia in existence that we participate in, I'd have to say that wrestling is probably my strongest subject. With that said, debates is probably my worst gameplay. So I've come prepared with 8 pages of notes in hopes that that will get me to my very first debate win in this community. I have no idea if I will be victorious or not, but I'm very hopeful that the amount of work I put in will pay off here. And there's one particular question out of this main round that if I don't get the point for, I will be very pissed.
Well, I certainly hope there's words on the other side of those pages because based on what I saw no notes. So best of luck to you, Nico. Your opponent is also no stranger to any of us, is a well-established trivia player in all facets. Mr. Eli McCaig. Now, Eli, I'm not actually sure if you've ever played Nico in any form of competition. So, but I'm sure you're very well familiar with Nico's gameplay. So, what do you think you're going to bring to this?
I very much know Nico's gameplay. I have seen him in multiple trivia matches. I have seen him in many debate matches. I know sort of where his mind goes. He gets very passionate. He gets very... Whenever he wants something to go his way, he gets very passionate. Occasionally, you'll hear a yell. Occasionally, you may even see a board get tossed over his shoulder. Or if you mention Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he just gets upset. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm very much looking forward to bringing my own sense of debate because whenever I'm in a debate, I like to try to make sure I get as much points as I can out in one breath. And I have been known for the speed rounds to be a very quick talker and making sure I can get all my points out just in the nick of time. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this match going. And hey, in this match, I'm not hoping to be antagonistic towards Nico. That Jeffrey Dean Morgan thing was just a joke because we do joke around. Nico is a very close friend of mine, and I respect him very much with his wrestling knowledge. So I'm very much for a good, clean game.
And I am very much looking forward to this match, as I'm sure both of our hosts or most of our judges are. So let's give a brief lowdown of the rules for people that have never seen this before. It's the first to 3. However, we will have 4 main round topics. So we may not have to ask all 4 of these main round questions. If there is a tie after these 4 main round questions, we will have 1 speed round question until the first person gets to 3. At any point during any of these questions, either one of our players can choose to have a 1-minute extension for either their opening or closing debate. So that's pretty much the rundown. After the openings, there will be a 5-minute debate period between our 2 players, followed by a closing argument. And then myself, along with our 2 other judges, will determine who gave the better argument. The person with the majority of votes from the judges will be awarded the point for that question. With that being said, let's get into this first round question right here. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame because pretty much everyone and their dog is in the Hall of Fame now. Everyone from Coco Beware to Drew Carey. I still have no idea how that turned out. So our players got to find somebody who they think is most deserving to be in the Hall of Fame next. So, Nico, you were the first person that was drawn in this match, so I guess we'll start with you. Whenever you're ready, who do you think is most deserving to be in the Hall of Fame?
My pick for this question is the man behind the hat and cloak, Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker. The man has been wrestling since 1984. He's given 35 years of his life to this business, and he's scheduled to make another in-ring appearance just a few days from when we're taping this debate. He's held the WWE World Heavyweight Championship a combined 7 times, WWE and WCW Tag Team Gold a combined 7 times, former hardcore champion. He's competed in nearly 200 WWE pay-per-view matches, which includes his illustrious WrestleMania streak. 4 of those WrestleMania matches taking place in the main event slot in 3 different decades. He's beaten Hulk Hogan twice for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's been a competitor in the introductions of various groundbreaking matches like Hell in a Cell, Buried Alive, Inferno, Punjabi Prison. He's had classic matches with Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Bret Hart, Jeff Hardy, Edge, CM Punk, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, The Big Show, Chris Jericho, Batista, Rey Mysterio, Mick Foley, Mark Henry, and The Shield when he teamed with Team Hell No, and more. And he has his own mythology built around him. It's amazing he hasn't been inducted at all already, but he should definitely go in the Hall of Fame sooner than Eli's pick.
Interesting. So let's find out who Eli's pick will be that apparently is not more deserving to get in than the dead man.
Well, I take that as a personal shot at myself, even though that's legal. But anyway, the person I chose is someone that, as of right now, is not an active member on the roster. Sure, you can look at The Undertaker and you can say, oh, he's not really active, but he still comes back yearly to compete. And I'm talking about Dwayne Johnson himself, The Rock. The Rock is someone I believe that deserves very much to be put into the Hall of Fame. You can look at his career. He started out in the mid-90s coming out. He was an Intercontinental Champion very quickly after he debuted. He's a multi-time World WWE Champion. He is a WCW World Heavyweight Champion during the WCW versus WWE invasion angle. We don't like to talk about it, but it happened. And even when he was around, whenever WWE needed someone to put the company behind, they always said, oh, we're going to put it behind The Rock because everyone loves him. He's able to give a quick and clear, concise idea of what it's like to be a leader for the company. He's held the company up more times than The Undertaker has, and he himself is someone that has had his own classic set of matches with Mankind. He has, in my opinion, has a more iconic run against Stone Cold than The Undertaker does, and he also has 2 wins against Hulk Hogan. So my choice for the Hall of Fame is The Rock.
All right, so we got The Undertaker and The Rock, 2 very worthy choices. So when either player is ready, the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins speaking.
It's really hard to be a leader when you're not there. And that's the thing. Rock was gone for 7 years. And when he came back, a lot of the people in the locker room who were full-timers, they felt like he was taking their spot. He felt like he was taking their time. And he did. He overshadowed the Miz's moment at WrestleMania 27. He cost CM Punk 2 main event spots in a row for 2 different WrestleManias. And he put himself over John Cena. He buried the Wyatt family after setting his own name on fire with a flamethrower and just standing there in the ring for 7 minutes posing. He doesn't have that kind of respect anymore that he did when he was a full-time member of the roster. Meanwhile, The Undertaker has always had the respect of the locker room, regardless of whether he was a full-timer or a part-timer, because he had been in the business for so damn long that he had garnered that respect with the boys. He was the judge, jury, and executioner of the fabled wrestler court. So he put in the hours, he put in the time to become that locker room leader, whereas Rock did not. And also, in terms of character development, Rock's first persona, Rocky Maivia, didn't work. It was a white meat babyface that left the fans chanting, "Die, Rocky, die." Meanwhile, The Undertaker, he comes in with the dead man persona from the get-go, and already he has people hanging on his every move. And when he did the American Badass gimmick as well, he had people hanging off of his every move. Like, it's a very underrated gimmick, and he managed to make 2 gimmicks work Rock couldn't make his first gimmick work. And so there's that as well. I'm going to let you talk for a minute so you can get some points in.
Look, the way you're looking at it as the superstars. You're looking at the Hall of Fame as if the superstars and the actual employees of Vince McMahon is putting them in the Hall of Fame. That's not how it is. It's always about who Vince McMahon looks at and says, oh, this person is worthy of being put in the Hall of Fame. It's always Vince McMahon. And to Vince McMahon, the Rock has always been the company man. He's always been number one. He doesn't care what the superstars think. Sure, the superstars can be like, oh, the Rock's taking our spot. But Vince McMahon doesn't care about that. All he wants to do is make money. And whenever he brings in the Rock, whenever he's thinking, oh, who can I have come in and make money, he always goes to the Rock because the Rock makes more money than the Undertaker.
But
and
guess
even
what?
when he hey, I wasn't done. I didn't interrupt you.
Fair enough. Okay.
And when you look at all the accomplishments of The Rock, they're more like The Rock has more accomplishments than The Undertaker does because he has more tag team championships. He's held the Intercontinental Championship, what The Undertaker has never done, and that's an accomplishment that you need to have, in my opinion, or one of the necessary parts. You need to be able to say you're a multi-time WWE champion. The Rock has been able to say that. And he has a longevity of just people looking at him like, oh, he makes the big bucks. I'm going to go to an event just because he is there. Whereas The Undertaker, he is someone that's been there. And though he has been there for a long time, he has always been someone that people have slowly gotten to the point of realizing, like, Undertaker, you really need to leave now. You need to leave. And since he's not leaving, he hasn't been leaving. People are like, now you just look like an old man that's trying to get money.
Well, first of all, you mentioned Vince McMahon's reliance on The Rock. Vince McMahon has shown himself these past couple of years to not be the sharp tool that he once was, hence why Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are now running the main shows. So his judgment is always to be in question these days. Secondly, the reliance on The Rock is part of the reason why there haven't been really any new stars, because Vince just wants carbon copies of The Rock, and you can't get that. You got to let people be their own thing, and The Rock being there and having that presence, and Vince relying constantly on these old timers, is putting the new guard in jeopardy of succeeding and building their own star power. And thirdly, you want to mention draws. You remember the Scorpion King, that role that Rock had in the movies? Yeah, that didn't do well at all. So Rock is not always the proven box office seller that you claim him to be. And you didn't mention any groundbreaking matches that the Rock, was a part of.
All right, the 5 minutes are concluded. We're going to go to the closing arguments. So, Nico, you started the debate. Whenever you're ready, you can begin with your closing argument.
Like I said before, The Undertaker just has to walk into a room and people will pay attention and hang on to his every word. The Rock has to grab a microphone and talk about genitals in order to get people to hang on to his every move. And also, one more reason why The Undertaker should go into the Hall of Fame before The Rock, and also probably why The Rock shouldn't go into the Hall of Fame at all. The Rock has been talking about running for president at some point in the future. The White House is currently controlled by a WWE Hall of Famer, and there are migrant children being kept in cages forced to sleep on concrete floors as a result of that. So I don't think we need another WWE Hall of Famer running the White House right now. And you can just cut out the middleman by not letting The Rock into the WWE Hall of Fame right then and there, let alone the White House. Undertaker has been with the company for 35 years, and he's always been loyal to them. The Rock has been more loyal to himself as time has gone on, and he's distanced himself more from the WWE.
All right. Needless to say, that closing argument was huge. So, Eli, whenever you're ready, you can begin with your closing argument.
If Nico wants me to bring up a notable match that The Rock has had, there is Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, WrestleMania 18. Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 15, 17, and 19. The Rock versus Mankind at the Royal Rumble 1999. Look, The Rock has had many great matches. He is not in the company right now, which makes him a more eligible member to the Hall of Fame than The Undertaker is, because The Undertaker is most likely going to continue wrestling. And I believe that if you continue to wrestle with the company, that takes out your eligibility just a little bit. And I think bringing up the fact that The Rock wants to run for president and should be a reason why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, that's not relevant to the point at all. It's all about his accomplishments. And Vince McMahon looks at The Rock as a viable money maker, and that's why he always brings him back. And he brings up that The Rock needs to be on the microphone before the audience can love him. No, you can hear The Rock's theme song. When you hear "If You Smell," the audience is ready to get behind him 100%. So The Undertaker has been.
I just realized something I had written down that I forgot to say that would have been kind of a big one, but not ridiculous.
Well, you just put too many pages of notes, I guess. But I like the arguments from both players. So let's go to our first judge on the panel. Let's go with Hunter Shameless. Who would you give your point to in this first debate?
They both came out very strong, great picks from both competitors. This is really tough. Both of them had really good points, but then I think that closing argument, I think that's what pulled it for me. I got to give it to Eli. I think Nico went a little too off topic, and really, especially towards the end of that closing argument, that's what's really swaying me. And the fact that Eli brought that up and then brought it around with his closing is what sways me to give it to Eli.
All right, so Hunter has chosen Eli for his question. Sean, do you concur with Hunter's assessment?
I mean, they both gave up very, very good points to one another. Problem is that you guys didn't really combat each other very much in the match. You guys pretty much let each other do your opening, things the entire time. But all of you guys had great stats all the way through. To me, based off of the stats that you pushed and then the attacking but not much of a countering to it, I got to give the point to Nico. He attacked certain things about The Rock that Eli just didn't come back to, such as like a horrible first opening character, that The Rock completely had to revitalize himself to just become a likable character overall. How can you be a leader when you're not there? Well, Eli did have a fantastic point about that he's not in the company right now, which makes him viable to be in it. The overall statistics, everything that The Undertaker's done compared to The Rock makes him the bona fide choice to go into the Hall of Fame first, once he stops wrestling, that is. But because of that and because of the points Nico puts, I got to give Nico the point.
All right, so it comes down to me. It's one apiece. I have to say, Eli's argument about the fact that The Rock's not really competing, I felt there was one bullet point that Nico could have used immediately that could have shot that down, and that was the fact that Ric Flair got inducted while he was still legitimately, like he was going to wrestle literally the next night. And I would know that because I got to see him inducted in person. So that was a lot of fun. But be that as it may. I liked both arguments on both sides, but I do think I got to agree with Hunter's assessment on this. And I think Eli just gave a little bit more of the assessments. He gave the more quality of the WrestleMania matches. Nico kind of just talked about the streak, but not really much about like the quality of what the streak represented. And basically just the ultimate of the drawability. Nico did kind of slam a little bit about the Scorpion King, but that was like, what was it, 20 years ago? It's not, you can't really make a similar assessment to it now. So ultimately, I think I will agree with Hunter, and I will give the first point to Eli. So that makes it 1-0 in favor of Eli, but I liked both arguments on both sides. All right, so that was a good first question. First opening debate from both sides. So we're talking about some of the great wrestlers in the first question. Now let's start talking about some of the worst stuff we've ever seen. WrestleMania. There's been some pretty great main events that were some of which were alluded to in that first question. And oh, by God, there have been some pretty crummy ones also. So we wanted to ask both of our players, what is the worst WrestleMania main event of all time. Eli, since you went second in the first question, you will kick off this next question. What is the worst WrestleMania main event of all time?
You know something? When you look at a WrestleMania, you want everything to be grand. You want it to be amazing. And you want the matches all to make sense in the long run. But not only that, you want to see unpredictable matches that you can only ever see at WrestleMania. That's not what happened at WrestleMania 32. At WrestleMania 32, the main event was Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. And to me, that is the worst WrestleMania main event to ever happen, for the simple fact of, A, it's predictable. When everyone saw Triple H win the Royal Rumble that year, everyone had in their head, oh, Roman Reigns is going to be the challenger. Roman Reigns is going to be the person that is going to be challenging for the WWE Championship. Fastlane came around, Roman Reigns won, and he's fighting Triple H. So everyone predicted it. Everyone was not looking forward to it. And then when the match actually happened, it was not an inspired match. No one had fun while they were watching it. Everyone was bored out of their minds. People were booing from every single side of the country and every single side of the nation, every single side of that arena. No one was having fun. And to me, that's why Triple H versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 32 is the worst WrestleMania main event.
That is a good choice on Eli's part, and I agree with a lot of what he just said. Let's see what Nico will use to counter for the ultimate garbage of WrestleMania main events.
You know, it's interesting Eli brings up unpredictability, because there is a downside to unpredictability sometimes as well. WrestleMania 9, it's one of the worst WrestleManias in history. You got matches like Doink the Clown beating Crush, Tatanka beating Shawn Michaels by countout, Undertaker's DQ win over Giant Gonzalez in a bodysuit that made him look naked, and you have the team of Money Inc., IRS, and Ted DiBiase getting a DQ win over the babyface team, Hulk Hogan and Bruce Beefcake. They got the babyfaces got themselves disqualified. So the saving grace of this card was going to be Bret Hart putting his WWF title on the line against the unstoppable force, the Royal Rumble winner, Yokozuna. And, you know, I have some issues with Bret Hart as a person, but I won't deny that he is a great in-ring performer. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do in this match. He put on the best match he could, showcasing that his best was just not enough to beat the unstoppable force that is Yokozuna, combined with the intellect of the racist stereotype that is Mr. Fuji. But then Hulk Hogan had to come in and go on an ego trip, puts on a 22-second squash match against Yokozuna, in which Fuji's powder gets in Yokozuna's eyes, hits the big boot, hits the leg drop, 1, 2, 3. Hulk Hogan looks good standing tall with the belt over his shoulder, while everyone else in the match looks fucking stupid as a result of it. So WrestleMania 9, Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna.
All right. Worthy choices on both sides. So once again, the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins talking.
Look,
Okay,
you're saying the worst main event is a match that wasn't even scheduled to be the main event. To me, that is the one thing that should take yours out of consideration, because it was not the scheduled main event. My match was actually a scheduled main event. It was the one that was getting hyped up.
Your match served a purpose, though. The purpose was to put Roman Reigns at the top of the company with the title, and after that, it benefited the company as a whole in the long run, because he had 2 great matches with AJ Styles. He had 2 great matches with both his Shield brothers, and then we got the brand split, and the company was in a good direction. Whereas in terms of long-term booking, Hulk Hogan winning served nobody anything. It was pointless. They pretty much undid everything at King of the Ring later that year, because Hulk Hogan left again.
But your entire argument that my main event is better is because of what happened after. No, we're looking at the match as itself as the main event. It is not a good main event. It was boring. People did not want to see it. People, look, the moment that match happened, the moment it started, everyone knew what was going to happen. They were like, oh, Roman Reigns is going to win. He's going to be the champion. And they want us to cheer. We're not going to cheer because we don't want that. They didn't want that. With your match, at least it was unpredictable. People, when they saw it happen, they were like, wow, this is new.
And
This
then
is
in hindsight,
unexpected.
they realized this was a very dumb idea, and this was just Hulk Hogan stroking his own ego. Meanwhile, for your match, both of your competitors in your match have had WrestleMania matches that were worse than this one. For example, Triple H versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25. My God, that was a snooze fest, full of rest holds. They were both slow and plotting, and they just didn't have great chemistry in the ring with each other. And as for Roman Reigns, he's had a worse match at last year's WrestleMania 34 against Brock Lesnar, when after a year of building up both the F5 and the spear as the most powerful finishing moves in the company, they pretty much just turned the spam button on for those finishing moves and devalued all that storyline building that they had done.
With those two matches that you just mentioned, people didn't know who were going to come out as the winner. And even when they did think of it, they subverted it. No one knew who was going to win the Triple H versus Randy Orton.
Predictability isn't always a bad thing.
Let me talk. When they saw Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, everyone was like, oh, Roman's going to win. Then they switched it. Brock Lesnar won, and they were like, oh, that's new and different. I'm curious what's going forward. When you see my match, because it was so predictable, no one was looking forward to it. With your match
still got some cheers, though. Your match still got some cheers, though, with Triple H trying to be the cool DX dad that he currently is.
Yeah, and that wasn't a good idea on his part. He did not do what he was booked to do. He was not being the heel. He was trying to be cool. He was trying to subvert everything, and that's not cool. That doesn't make a good match. He's trying to change the script when that's not what. And a
22-second squash match. And a 22-second squash match that makes everyone
that wasn't even supposed to be scheduled.
Predictability isn't always a bad thing. Predictability isn't always a bad thing.
But being unpredictable and seeing something that's new and something that people weren't expecting is a whole lot more interesting than seeing something that everyone's expecting to happen. Because when you look at your main event, it wasn't even on the card. Which it wasn't,
and
again,
it should have been.
It
shouldn't have been, because it served nobody anything. It just made everyone look dumb except Hulk Hogan, and they had to undo everything they did at that WrestleMania later on at that year's King of the Ring, to make up for the fact of how stupid they looked at WrestleMania.
Again, I think your entire argument should be null and void, because your match wasn't even the scheduled main event. The main event is the thing that people advertise. This is on the card. This is the main event of WrestleMania 9.
Card subject to change.
Look, that's all the way up until the card actually happens. The card is not subject to change when it is happening. The main event is Bret Hart versus Yokozuna for the WWE Championship. When that happened, the unscheduled that is not a main event. That is just a match that happened. To me, that you could look at that as a post-credit scene of a Marvel movie. My match is the actual main event. It was predictable. Everyone knew what to expect when they saw it, and no one cared about it. And Triple H and Randy Orton was an actual good match, and no one expected who was going to win. And Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, they subverted the expectations for that one. When you have a match that's predictable, that's already boring in and of itself. People just sit back and watch like, oh, we know what's going to happen. Now we just got to wait.
All right, so both players, they definitely brought the passion on this one. They both truly believe that their match is the worst, but only one person is going to get the point here. So, Eli, you started this question. You can take it away whenever you want. And remember, you also do have a 1-minute extension at any point should you choose to use it.
My match is the worst main event in WrestleMania history because it was predictable. Everyone knew what was going to happen going into it. The moment they heard Roman Reigns versus Triple H, they knew who was going to win. No one was looking forward to it. They all were just like, oh, this is happening. We just have to sit through it, and we're not going to enjoy it. Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna was not the scheduled main event. No one knew it was going to happen. Because it wasn't the scheduled main event, I don't even think it should be put in this category of worst WrestleMania main event. But since it is, we're debating this, It was unpredictable. People were not expecting it, and when it happened, people were thinking to themselves, "Oh, this is something new. This is something different. I did not expect this thing to happen." And it's good to see something that's unexpected happen at a WrestleMania, because that's when the unexpected is supposed to happen, at WrestleMania, not the predictable, not the expected. And to me, that's the reason why Reigns versus Triple H is not a good and the worst WrestleMania main event.
All right, good closing argument from Eli. Let's see what Nico has to counter.
Again, they had Bret Hart, Yokozuna. They had already put in a good match that told the story that was supposed to be told, and then Hulk Hogan comes in, makes everyone look stupid, holds the title for a little bit, and then they completely undo everything at King of the Ring, and then he leaves again. Basically, that match served no purpose other than to make Hulk Hogan look good and everyone else look dumb. Roman Reigns and Triple H, they have had worse matches at WrestleMania, let alone WrestleMania main events. Brock Lesnar ruined a year's worth of storytelling in his match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34. Triple H and Randy Orton had a terrible match at WrestleMania 25 that was just slow and plotting. Predictability isn't always a bad thing, because you know what happens when you get unpredictability? Sometimes you get Judy Bagwell on a pole matches, and you don't want that in your wrestling. And unfortunately, in this case, this is an example of unpredictability gone wrong for my match, because it served no one.
Time.
All right, so both players have brought very compelling arguments to their case. We're going to start with Sean on this one. Sean, where do you stand on this one?
First off, I wouldn't have picked either one of these for the worst WrestleMania. I would have gone WrestleMania 11 with Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor.
I actually like that match.
But for the main event, no. Good back and forth between them. I personally, Nico, I love the card subject to change. I thought that was beautiful for you. But based off the where everything was going, well, yes, the predictability thing, it was a huge factor for Eli, and you did counter that in your closing. One thing that you didn't quite counter, or at least talk about, was how uninspired, how people were boring and booing, and that's the one thing you don't want. Predictability is one thing, keep the status quo going, but the match itself was bland, boring, and I mean, even though he didn't mention it, overly long. Yours, he hit it. I mean, it was quick. People cheered when Hogan showed up. I mean, it sent everyone home happy technically because Hogan was the face. But based off of certain things that Eli said, I'm gonna have to give Eli the point.
Right, interesting. Because I was actually kind of the other way, where I think Eli kind of missed a pretty fatal counterpoint when Nico talked about the fact that the match was so short, and he kept bringing up the King of the Ring match. For me, I thought the best counter argument would have been Eli literally using the King of the Ring match as the bullet point. It's like we saw what they could do if they actually put on an actual match, and that was god awful. So it's like if you want to actually have them do that match, then so be it. But I do like both picks. I think both brought some compelling arguments, but I think ultimately, as you said, Sean, the card subject to change thing really turned my head. It was actually kind of clever. I actually would not have thought about it. So me personally, I actually think I would give the point to Nico on this one. So it's now, down to Hunter. You know what you're supposed to do. Let's not call this a draw like Okada Omega.
So yeah, both guys had great points. Eli bringing up the predictability of the match, people being bored during it, booing. But Nico, I think, swayed me when he said that it was Hogan using his power trip, using all the power backstage to make everyone else look dumb. And he comes out, and I think also Eli focused too much on that wasn't the scheduled main event. In the books, in the record books, that is the main event of WrestleMania. That was the scheduled main event that they had planned. So I got to go with Nico on this one.
All right, so Nico will get the point on that one. Now let's go to the third question. And we talked about that both players kind of maybe botched a little bit on that closing arguments. And what a segue into the next question, because we want to ask both of our competitors, what would you consider the worst botch in wrestling history? My God, there have been some pretty bad ones, but let's find out the cream of the crop of crap here, and let's start with Nico. What is the worst botch in wrestling history?
So my pick is kind of the hold my beer meme of botches. I judge botches based on the consequences of them. And the consequences of this botch were already very bad. And then somehow it kept finding a way to get worse and worse and worse. So details. March 20th, 2015, the Crash promotion in Tijuana, Mexico. Rey Mysterio and Extreme Tiger, they have a tag match against Manic and Perro Aguayo Jr. In this match, Rey was setting up Perro for a 619, and he did the same setup he always does, a drop kick to the back, sending his opponent into the second rope. Now, Rey has a history of working with bigger competitors, so there's a possibility Rey threw the drop kick stiffer than he should have. And as a result of that, the whiplash from the drop kick combined with the impact of his now unconscious body hitting the second rope caused the breakage of Perro's C1, C2, and C3 vertebrae. Perro was pronounced dead at 1 a.m. the very next day. And, when you compare the consequences of this botch to the consequences of the botch that Eli picked, and we'll say in just a moment, that alone should give me the point for this question. But if you want to hear more, I'm happy to share more in the regular argument period.
What a damn shame. JTH is trying to bring funny and humor, and Nico's got to bring up death. So thanks a lot, Nico. Way to lighten the mood there. So, Eli, how are you going to combat death? Good luck.
Exactly, it is good luck to me. So let me take you back, all the way back to 2003. It's WrestleMania 19. Everyone is watching this amazing show, near perfect. I'm saying near perfect. And then we get to the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. Everyone's excited for this match. The true crowning of Brock Lesnar being the next guy. And then he goes up to the top. It's about to be the finish. Goes up to the top rope. He goes for the shooting star press, but he misses. And he lands on his head, getting concussed. And still continuing through the match. That, to me, is the worst botch ever. Is seeing Brock Lesnar missing the shooting star press at WrestleMania 19 when that was supposed to be that was supposed to end the match. And seeing him miss it, to me, in my opinion, that's the worst botch. And we'll continue on in the 5-minute round.
Well, both compelling opening arguments there. Again, I will say good luck, Eli. But the 5 minutes will begin when the first person begins talking, so have at it.
Again, you have to rate botches based on the consequences suffered from them. And the thing with Eli's pick is the match still continued. Brock Lesnar was concussed, but thanks to his ridiculously strong farm boy neck and because of Kurt Angle giving proper direction, the match was still able to continue as if nothing had happened. They just had to change the finish up, and then they still have that WrestleMania moment with Brock Lesnar holding the title high and fireworks going off in the air. With my botch, everything just got worse and worse and worse from the moment Rey's 619 went over Perro's head, and everyone in the crowd realized, oh shit, something's very wrong here, as his unconscious body just dangles over the rope.
Nico,
and then
I'll just say this. It's going to be very difficult to argue the botch of having a person die for the botch, so I'm just going to have fun with this. So I'm just going to say this. You saying that a man dying in the ring is the worst botch. If that's the case, then Owen Hart dying making his entrance is also one of the worst botches. And that's also one that I should have picked now thinking back at it. But anyway,
I would have counter-argued that there's no footage of that, so you can't really say how bad of a botch it was.
There's a lot of personal people talking about it, and I can take that. But seeing Brock Lesnar, knowing that this was supposed to be his crowning achievement, and him basically failing at the big finish, to me, that's a very bad botch. Man, you're making this so hard to argue
You know
against.
it's even a worse botch
man.
for it's even a worse botch for Brock Lesnar than the one you picked. It's most recently at Money in the Bank when he pushes over a bunch of ladders that hit a cameraman and bloodied up Mustafa Ali's mouth after he falls out of the ring. So that's not even Brock Lesnar's worst botch because the one you picked, because all the damage was just inflicted to himself. Whereas the worst botch for him is Money in the Bank, where he inflicted damage to other people by being a reckless moron.
Okay, going on to that, I think it's worse to do damage to yourself because then that's you as a person making sure that your career is a little bit shorter than it should be. I mean, if you were to be in that situation and you were to injure yourself, you would be thinking to yourself, great, my career as a wrestler is a whole lot shorter now because I hurt myself. And I think that
speaking of careers that were a whole lot shorter, getting back to Pero,
so much.
I'm sorry that I'm being a serious asshole with this, but again, I should probably get back to my actual botch. Again, you have Pero laying dead on the second rope, and then Conan is like shaking him, trying to wake him up while a match is still going on as this is happening. Pero's body then falls down to the ring apron and folds up like an accordion. No one is immobilizing Pero's neck at all. And then the match finally ends as Rey Mysterio hits a 619 on Manic on the same rope that Pero was just laying dead on a few moments ago. The match ends, and then they bring out a wooden board, not a stretcher, a wooden board to carry Pero to the ambulance because there was apparently another wrestler injured backstage using the stretcher. So they had to carry him from the board to where the stretcher was, then put him on the stretcher. They're still not putting a neck brace on him, and then they load him into the ambulance.
Though that is a very sad sight to see, you can't deny the tenacity of Brock Lesnar able to continue a match is amazing to see. To me, that is heartwarming to see someone take a complete botch that could have ended their career and continue on to have this great moment.
But the topic is worst botch. The topic is worst botch ever.
I know, but I'm trying to take away that thing and try to sway things in my favor.
Just accept just forfeit the point, and we can get on.
I am not forfeiting. This is a fight, and I'm going to make sure I get my hand around your throat and chokeslam you through this ring. So let's go. This is Chokeslam.
Dude, this is sad for you. This is sad for you because I've picked an ace in the hole, and you're dodging around your own pick because you realized you fucked up.
No, maybe. But anyway, when we look at the botch at WrestleMania 19, Brock Lesnar hurting himself, getting himself concussed is very horrible. When you look at, dang it, I can't even say anything negative.
One could even say that Brock Lesnar falling flat on his face was karma for the asshole he would be in today's generation of wrestling, and everyone he's suplexed recklessly over his head, and all the bad matches he's put on since he came back.
Just know this, I'm prepping a great closing statement right now against yours because I can't think of any. It's hard to think of something negative to say about a dead man. Just know this. But again, my bot.
Well, I'll just say this, Eli. That closing argument better be
good.
One for the ages.
That better be a Hulk Hogan 5 Moves of Doom type of closing.
Fingerbolt of Doom style.
I'm getting ready for it. But Nico, go
first. So everybody, I apologize to everybody watching because the judges and players and host alike were all just smiling and chuckling at someone talking about a man dying. So condolences to the family. Let's have a moment of silence for the memory of this. Thank you. Okay.
That was quick.
We have to fill a 1 hour debate, Nico. Come on.
He said a moment. He didn't say a minute.
So now that the comic relief has now passed on, and I said passed on. That's another death related thing.
Oh dear God!
What a choice of words.
Can I start my closing statement because you're not really helping with these segments?
Yeah. Just go.
It's a JTH talent. So Nico, just take it away whenever you're ready.
Again, the worst botch in wrestling has to be judged based on the consequences suffered from it. In the WrestleMania 19 main event with Brock Lesnar, he got concussed and WWE got a highlight for their blooper reel. And that was as bad as things got. In my botch, A man died. The Crash promotion looked ridiculously incompetent in their handling of a severely injured wrestler. A police investigation took place. And Eli's favorite wrestler of all time, Rey Mysterio, was part of that police investigation. His professional and personal life were almost destroyed as a result of this, as there was a legitimate chance he could have gone to jail, let alone the guilt he's probably been carrying for the past 4 years for the role he probably feels he played in the death of one of his best friends. This was a botch that makes you realize how much risk there is, even with the simplest maneuvers in wrestling, and that the slightest misstep in the ring can end in absolute tragedy. And that's why it's the worst botch ever.
Well, we will see about that. The closing argument of the ages is now upon us.
Hulk up.
Eli, have at it, you.
Whenever you look at the WrestleMania 19 botch from Brock Lesnar, that caused the man to have a concussion, and that caused him to lose the rest of that match. And by lose, I mean the memory of the rest of that match. Whenever you see him in an interview or people talking about it, he does not remember what happened the rest of that match. That also caused WWE to look at everyone's wellness policy, because whenever they started noticing a concussion, that's when they started to take things a little bit more seriously. People die in a wrestling ring. That is, I hate to say this, but that is a very common thing nowadays. I have heard a lot about, as someone that is very close to the wrestling business, stop shaking your head, this is my argument, people have died in the ring. I believe Bruiser Brody is someone that had died in the ring prior by getting stabbed by an audience member. And to me, that is something that is unfortunate, but it's not the worst. Brock Lesnar having a concussion is the worst, and this is not a great closing argument, and I'm very sorry to the family of the person that has died.
All right. Can we just make this brief? Show of hands. Who gives the point to Nico? Done. That's it. So let's move on to the final main round question. It's currently 2-1 in favor of Nico. If Nico is able to get the point here, he will win the match. We're going into the era of tag teams, more notably NXT. We want to ask both of our players which current NXT tag team should get the call up to the WWE main roster next. Eli, you have your work cut out for you to try and get this point. It's much needed, but we're going to start with you. Who is your choice for the next NXT tag team call up?
Whenever you look at the NXT tag team division, there are some great tag teams, and then there are some not so great tag teams. And the tag team that I chose is one of the few that you can look at and say, oh, they're going to be remembered as one of the greatest tag teams in all of NXT. And to me, that is the Undisputed Era. The Undisputed Era is an amazing tag team, and you could go on an entire argument, but I'm talking about Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. They are a great tag team. They have been able to excel in their time as a tag team, and I believe they are one of, if not the greatest tag team to come out to ever exist in NXT, and that's why they are my pick.
All right. Eli is swinging with his choice with the Undisputed Era. Let's see who Nico will counter and combat with.
So I went with former NXT Tag Team Champions who have now established themselves as a presence on NXT UK. Mustache Mountain, consisting of former UK champion Tyler Bate and his longtime trainer and coach Trent Seven. Since Sheamus got injured, I feel like there's been sort of a vacancy in the main roster tag team division that was left by the bar, and I feel like the Mustache Mountain are probably the best team that can fill that vacancy because you have Tyler Bate, who is capable of doing the strong spots that Cesaro has always been capable of, and Trent Seven can fill the big man role that was left by Sheamus. If you look at all the other tag team success they've had outside of WWE, you got Attack Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions, Chikara Tag Team Champions, Fight Club Pro Tag Team Champions, International Wrestling Syndicate, Over the Top Wrestling, Progress Wrestling, Rev Pro. So they've been a staple in pretty much every single company they've competed in. What Culture Pro Wrestling? They were in the inaugural tag team tournament. I was watching them. That was my introduction to them, and I love them. I love their personality. I love their in-ring work. They are a great team. They would do great things on the main roster.
Good arguments by both sides. This is a very important 5-minute debate period coming up, so take it away whenever either player is ready.
When you talk about the Mustache Mountain being NXT champions, you can't forget the Undisputed Era have been 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions. And also, when you look at my team...
Who beat them? Who beat them the first time? It was Mustache Mountain. They beat them for the tag team titles the first time. And also, by the way, Bobby Fish, he's been injured twice in the past 2 years, so I don't really know if you can consider him a reliable wrestler in terms of his health. And that's just going to leave Kyle O'Reilly floundering.
But you say that, but you also forget about Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly's history in the Indies, which you brought up Mustache Mountain and how successful they were. You can't forget about Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish being very popular in Ring of Honor as Red Dragon, or as I like to call him, Redragon, because the way they have it looks like Redragon.
But who was still the star? Who was still the star out of their group? It was Adam Cole when they were all a group. Adam Cole was still the star.
But again, we're not talking about who was the star. We're talking about tag teams, Undisputed Era. And even if you were to go Mustache Mountain, I would even go on to say that Pete Dunne is the star of that entire team. Because when you look at them together, they're British strong style, and Pete Dunne is the star of that team. And I'm focusing on my tag team of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly.
You haven't countered my point about Bobby Fish constantly being injury prone, though. Trent Seven, he's been in the business long enough that he knows what his body is capable of, and he doesn't really try to push himself to do things that will get him hurt. And Tyler Bate, that man is like an ant. He is shorter than me, but yet he has the joint strength and the ligament strength and the core strength to pick up things 3 times his size, pick up men 3 times his size, and do strongman spots with them.
You use Bobby Fish's injury as a negative. I would see it as a positive because it shows that he actually cares about the business. He's willing to put his body on the line for his business. And him teaming with Kyle O'Reilly showing, and those two have great chemistry together.
We're talking about additions to the main roster, and if one half of your team is injured, then you can't really use them on the main roster.
Let me finish this thing. They both have a lot of energy together. They both have a great charisma together. If you put them on the main roster as a tag team, you get more charisma. You get more excitement. People are going to want to buy tickets to see them. Whereas you look at Mustache Mountain, they'll just look at them and they'll just see they don't have that much charisma. You barely hear them on the mic. Whenever you put Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish on the mic, you're always like, "Oh, got it."
Do you hear the crowd reaction as Mustache Mountain slowly rolls into the ring with the towel still draped over their shoulder? The crowds are going, "Oh!" The further they get in the ring, they have the crowd eating out of the palm of their hands.
When they see Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, they automatically cheer, even when they're playing heels. The moment they start, everyone's cheering, especially when you see Kyle O'Reilly with the championship belt doing the freaking electric guitar. Those two together, they make a great combo. Both have charisma, both have personality. More personality than Mustache Mountain. They'll just walk around being, "Look, we are strong, tough guys." When you look at Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, they'll be like, "Hey, what's up, man? We got personality. We'll be able to beat you on the mic because we'll actually go on the mic." And that, to me, that's what you need to have to be a WWE on the main roster. You need to
Mustache
have
Mountain doesn't really have to. Mustache Mountain doesn't really have to say much. Again, they
But
just
that's
have
what
to.
you
They just have to
need
do little
when you-
motions, and they'll have the crowd
need-
eating out of the palm of their hand. And then when you see
But look,
them in
when
the
you're on
ring,
the main-
telling stories in the ring, going against
But
teams
you're-
like the Usos, like the New Day, Daniel Bryan and Rowan, Heavy Machinery, the Revival, Viking Raiders, Ascension, the B Team, etc. They
you
will put
can't
on
say-
great matches every time. And you can also throw them into the 24/7 title picture as a tag team, not as singles
Oh, no,
competitors, but
I
as
don't
a
want
tag
to
team.
see.
And
I don't want to see
1
any
minute.
tag teams in the 24/7 run because that's for the people that everyone forgets. The Undisputed Era, when you go to the main roster, you need to be able to work the mic like a champ, and you need to be able to have great in-ring ability. The Undisputed Era has great in-ring ability. They've been able to do great matches with AOP, with Mustache Mountain.
And so has Mustache Mountain. They've proven that they can have great tag team
Yeah, but
matches
the Undisputed
with anybody.
Era has also proven that they can be in a 4-way tag team match and still come out looking like champs. And
then why didn't they win at NXT TakeOver 25 in the ladder match? Why did the Street Profits win?
Because they weren't booked to win. My goodness, look at the logistics. You need to be able to be great on the mic, and you need to be able. Oh, if
Kyle
that's the case,
O'Reilly's not good on the mic. Kyle O'Reilly's not good on the mic, and Bobby Fish hasn't spoken in a long time.
If you're gonna throw that at me, why didn't Mustache Mountain become the first NXT UK champion?
Well, Tyler Bate was already the first ever WWE United Kingdom champion in the tournament.
So it was very good arguments from both sides. I actually think this is pretty even right here. So this final argument is very crucial. Eli, again, a reminder, you need to get this point in order for the match to continue. If you feel you need to use your 1 minute extension that will aid you, this is your opportunity to do so.
Whenever you look about going to the main roster, you need to have two things. You need to be able to work well in the ring, and you need to be able to have the charisma. Mustache Mountain has only one of those things. You barely ever hear them on the mic. You barely ever see them show any personality. They're very just stoic people, and they go out and they go in the ring and they do stuff. Undisputed Era has been able to prove that they have a ton of personality. Every single audience member can hook onto their personality. Go, hey, these are two people that I want to root for. And they've proven in the ring with multiple tag teams that they can go for long matches. They'll be able to put on great matches with the Revivals, the Usos, the New Day. I believe they'll be able to have a great rivalry, the Undisputed Era versus the Club with Gallows and Anderson. To me, that's going to be a great match, just for the simple fact that both teams are very similar, coming from the Indies. You see that match and you're like, oh, this is a match that I want to see more and more and more and more. And I believe the Undisputed Era, once you bring them up, they would be quick Raw or SmackDown tag team.
Right. So interesting. Eli did not formally choose to use his minute extension. The same can apply to Nico if he feels that he can make a dagger here. If he wishes to use his minute extension, he can choose to acknowledge it now. If not,
I'm going to opt to use it.
All right. So you now have 2 minutes for a closing argument. It will start whenever you begin speaking.
You talk about stoic and silence like it's a bad thing. It's worked wonders for Walter, and now he's like at the top of the card in NXT's UK picture. You talk about Undisputed Era being good talkers. I haven't heard Kyle O'Reilly talk that much since he joined the company. And Bobby Fish, again, he keeps getting hurt so much that he can't really get in range of a microphone because his arm is always in a sling. Meanwhile, Mustache Mountain, they have shown time and time again that they can put on great matches with literally any and every team, and they bring something different in that they have a small man in Tyler Bate doing big man things, whereas with the Undisputed Era, you could make the argument that we've kind of seen their act done by DIY with the constant strikes from the lower body, with the takedowns and whatnot. So it's not really a fresh act, whereas Mustache Mountain, they bring something fresh to the casual audience that might not be watching NXT. And when they see Trent Seven and Tyler Bate doing the things they do, they will get invested. Plus merchandise sales, those fake mustaches, WWE can make a lot of money off of those. It can be really beneficial to them. Wouldn't you love to see Tyler Bate and Otis going at it in the ring in a match with Heavy Machinery and Mustache Mountain? That would be hilarious, but it would be fantastic at the exact same time. And I feel like their comedic timing is also great. That let's say there's not something for them to do in the tag team picture, then you can have them as a tag team become co-24/7 champions, use their combined intellect to outsmart R-Truth, Drake Maverick, and every other single moron chasing the two of them throughout arenas around the world. Again, you got to factor in they get injured less than the Undisputed Era has proven to get injured. So they're more reliable. Tyler Bate is a young guy. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's more malleable that way. He'll take direction very well. There's just a lot more. Yeah.
First off, congratulations to Nico. That's the first time I've ever heard the word malleable ever used in a wrestling debate. So congratulations there. You've now gone down in history. I liked both arguments from both sides, but we're going to start with Hunter on this. Who do you side with?
both guys had incredible arguments back and forth, but the one that swayed me, it's actually a few. It's the fact that Nico brought up that Eli didn't really touch on the Bobby Fish injury prone, and the fact that Nico was able to counter the non-charismatic point from Eli, saying that when they come out, they get a huge pop, they get a huge reaction. So people are for them, so they're getting a positive reaction. So I gotta pull for Nico here.
All right, so Hunter sides with Nico. Sean, it's now to you. Do you agree with Hunter's assessment?
I love both these teams. I think they're both fantastic. And like both of you, I watched them outside of WWE before they got into here. I like you guys both back and forths. You guys both countered each other on the mic situation.
Yep.
The BF, Bobby Fish being injured a lot was good. But, I mean, Eli, you did counter that with means that he's hungry to keep coming back. But the big thing that you didn't counter is that we need someone to replace the bar. Someone and with Nico, you brought up, something new, like the DIY time or part 2 to the Undisputed is a big thing. Obviously Adam Cole being the star. I mean, yes, Eli, you did bring up that Pete Dunne is the star, but Mustache Mountain was technically 18 before Pete Dunne popped in. Yeah. Because of those situations, I'm going to have to actually side with Nico as well. I think the points he added, that extra minute helped out quite a bit as well.
Yeah, it did.
And Mustache Mountain makes the plausible point to be a better upstart to bring up to the main roster than Undisputed Era.
Holy shit, I won a debate.
Yeah, miracles happened in the world of wrestling debates. So with that, this match is officially ended by a final of 3-1. Mr. Cosmic Night Fury, and I'm glad I actually said it right this time. Nico Regoli is victorious, and it's glorious. And
that
wonderful.
Last one though could have easily gone either way.
I agree, and I do agree with Sean a little bit. I definitely think that minute extension that he had definitely helped there. So let's now go to some post-match interviews. Let's start with our winner, Mr. Regoli. You said it. Apparently, it was a miracle. Nobody saw it coming. Now that it has happened, what do you got to say about it?
Again, you got to think of what the situation is. I mean, yes, it's wrestling, which is a strong suit of mine, but it's also a debate, which has proven to be a weakness of mine. So to finally come out victorious, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling, like, because this year has been pretty big for first times for me. First Full Metal win, first Iron Man match win, and now first debate win. So I'm just keeping the history-making moments in my career coming. And Eli, he played great as I expected he would. Eli's passion matches my own, and arguably sometimes surpasses it. It's no brainer why he's the Phantom TV champion over at Multiplex and why he's had so many title shots in so many other mediums and so many other leagues. It's because he puts in the work every single time, and I expected him to do the exact same thing here. I was nervous that some of those questions weren't going to go my way, but then I felt the tide turn a little bit around those second batch of questions. So I feel good, and I'm ready for whatever's next. You're going to ask me who would I rather face, Grant or Jim, and I will say this. With Grant, there's definitely going to be a lot less animosity because Grant is a very laid-back guy. He and I just had a phone call a few days ago where we talked about a UFC card that happened and just shot the shit for about an hour and a half. Meanwhile, Jim Green, our rivalry has extended for a very long time. He throws his bullshit at me, I throw my bullshit back at him, and it just leads to chaos sometimes. So if that happens to be the case, it's going to be a very heated debate. But I'm prepared.
All right. well said by our victor. Now, unfortunately, with a victor, we have to go to the other side of the spectrum. But not to be ashamed, Mr. Eli McCaig put up a very, very worthy fight tonight. Eli, how do you assess how you played tonight?
I mean, I feel like for the questions that I actually thought I had really good answers for, that I put up very good arguments. And, like, again, for that botch one, it was very difficult to fight off against his answer. But I mean, I feel like for the WrestleMania main event and the NXT tag team, I thought I had really good arguments. I didn't use that 1 minute extension because I know I have it, but I personally, it's just a personal thing for me. I don't like to use it. I feel like if I can't get a good closing argument in 1 minute, then I shouldn't win that argument. So I try my hardest to always try to find a way to win in that 1 minute. So that's why I didn't use the extension. Because again, I just personally don't like using it. I know it's there. I don't like to use it. But I mean, this was a hard fought battle, and I'm very proud of Nico, and I'm looking forward to seeing him going up against whoever he has next. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens next for me in this Chokeslam league.
Well said. So with that, we're going to close shop up on this third edition of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. Let's start off with our winner, Mr. Regoli. Where can the good people find you on social media?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 random meaningless numbers at the end on Discord. Dedicated to art, or at D2A channel on various social media platforms. We do Schmodown reactions twice a week, and we have the Who Cares Anyway podcast broadcast live every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, and then you can catch the recording on wherever podcasts are available. Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube, Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There's no letter G.
It's really bad, by the way.
Rolling Crits, or at Rolling Crits on Instagram. It's a YouTube tabletop show. First 2 episodes are up on our YouTube channel. First episode is audio only. Second episode has visuals as well. And by the time this match goes up, Zadius Smith and I will have concluded our obligations for Multiplex as part of Crisis on Earthplex. And then afterwards, you'll just see me there doing management stuff and competing.
Sounds good. So now on to Mr. Eli McCaig. Where can the good people find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Eli McCaig. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Eli Mac. And I'm also on, I can't remember, that website that has a lot of movie stuff that you can put lists, that you can make lists. Letterboxd, yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, I forgot what it was. I'm there as well at Mr. Eli Mac. And I've been recently trying to do some more stuff on my YouTube channel at Mr. Eli Mac. But recently I've just been doing bracket breakdowns for the Multiplex Fandom Fight Series, Summer Series tournament. So hopefully I'll have more of those. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, sounds good. And also a very nice thank you to both of my other judges that chose to join here tonight. Let's go to Hunter. Where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me at my YouTube channel, Film Nerd TV, and as Nico plugged before, Combat Wrestling Network and Combat Wrestling Trivia. And also check out my horror podcast called the Horoscope Podcast with Russell Howell, where by the time this is released, we will have the episode out for Halloween, 1978 Halloween, with special guest star Ben Bateman. So check that one out.
Very nice. Let's go over to Sean. Where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me at Facebook at Sean Watts Crew. You also see behind me, I got my own movie review talk show where I review the latest films and other things. That's at Sean's Movie Crusades on Facebook and at YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at S Movie Crusades. Same name for Letterboxd as well. And then you can also follow me on Instagram and at Sean's Movie Crusades. And that's Crusades with a Z, not an S.
Sounds good. And everybody here can follow me on Twitter at WWEJTH1. Follow me on Facebook, Jeremy Hastings, whatever that stands for. And also my YouTube channel, JTH, where I also do Schmodown reactions, as Nico alluded to, looking like a total loser, as I usually do in all of them. But on behalf of everybody here, this was a great match. I hope you enjoy it. On behalf of everyone, this is JTH. Thank you for watching this edition of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate, and we all bid you adieu.